I go. What's up, guys? John Sindez here, Cutternation podcast. Got a special guest, David Rankin over here, the man, the CEO of PitchLogic, the PitchLogic Baseball F5 Sports. David, welcome to the show. Thanks for jumping on real quick for this call.
Hey, John, thanks a lot, man. We're excited to be working with you guys and really excited to be showing everybody what's going on with PitchLogic, and we just want to be a part of getting baseball back on track as fast as possible.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a bummer that we cannot do what we love to do and throw baseballs, strike people out, and do stuff. That being said, it opens up a massive opportunity for the baseball, the people that need to work on things, that they can catch up from where they're at. And this is one of the things what we're using with our remote training is your ball, actually. And the ball gives us feedback immediately. And so I have some questions for you about this awesome ball that I feel like who better to ask than the man, right? And my first question to you with this is, okay, how does this ball work? How does somebody how does it just feel like a perfect 5-ounce ball and then just show up with cool stuff on my phone,
Well, it only took about 15 years to figure out. So, but we've got time, right?
Yeah.
No, it's really we've been developing product for hundreds of years, it seems like. But this product really waited until new technology made it possible. So there's a lot of stuff in there that just didn't exist 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. And we used a lot of, there's neural networking and artificial intelligence capabilities inside of this ball that makes it work, which you couldn't do before. And also we've just got new electronics, low power, super fast electronics in there, and a sensor suite that is unique to the ball that nobody's ever put together the way we did, and that sort of thing. So it's a lot of years of understanding the problem, but really we got lucky because a bunch of technologies all came together at once. But what really happened is I love baseball. I think pitching is awesome. I'm not a pitcher. Everybody knows that. But it's one of the most complicated things to do in the world. As an engineer, it was just so much fun to work on that problem. And it's so much fun working with pitchers because it's just a great community of people, and they're always looking for opportunities to do things better. And so being part of that's why we're doing it.
That's awesome. Could you go into a little bit more of the detail about the tech that's inside this ball?
Yeah, so inside the ball is a very tiny circuit board. It's about 1 inch across. It's a little bit bigger than a quarter. And it's got a processor in there that does 64 million instructions per second, which you can't imagine. That's just too fast. I can't imagine that. But we needed that. And it's got a Bluetooth radio that talks to your phone, of course. And it's got a bunch of motion sensors that measure motion in a bunch of different ways, like rotation and acceleration. And it even knows what direction when you throw it. It knows what compass heading you're throwing it and things like that. But the real trick was taking all of that as different streams of data and they call it fusion, and fusing it into a coherent stream. And then we had to figure out, well, how do you know when you're being thrown? So you can measure all this stuff, but how do you know that this is a pitch and not just some guy tossing the ball over to his buddy or rattling around the back of a backpack? So we layered on these algorithms that also help it understand what kind of motion is happening, what you're actually doing with the ball. So it's down in the dirt level, that's what it's doing. But at a higher level, what it's doing is the ball really understands how it's moving. So when you pick it up and walk around with it, it's tracking that motion. And so when you pick it up and you draw back and fire, it knows that, hey, I've just been pitched and I'm going to hit that glove in about 300 milliseconds. So it's watching what's happening all the time. It's measuring it 1,000 times a second. And as soon as it says, wait a minute, that was a pitch, it says, okay, I got to send out what just happened to the phone. And it does it super fast. Since it's always calculating, it's not just sitting there waiting, it's always calculating. And so as soon as it hits the glove, it's like, okay, take everything that just happened and let's send it out. So as soon as you hear that sound of it hitting the glove, it's going to show up on your phone.
Wow, that's interesting stuff. So the processing speed is the fastest I've ever put inside a baseball, right?
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for a long time. A few years ago, we put a web server inside of a baseball bat. Okay, so it's a weird thing to be able to go onto your browser and log into a baseball bat, but we've done that too. But in this case, um, the motion a pitcher uses to throw a baseball and all the things that happen in the last 30 milliseconds are extremely complicated. And it's not clear how human beings can even do it, right? We know we can, but how it does it kind of defies what we understand about the body. And so the ability to measure all of that takes a lot of processing power. And there's no better place to put it than right in the ball that's feeling all the effects of what you're doing to that ball. So we like being in the ball because it's a very simple system. For a pitcher, you just focus on the pitching, but you don't have cameras staring at you. You don't have, stuff that you're setting up or anything like that. You just pull the ball out of your pocket and you just start using it. And so it was a nice confluence of, hey, this is real easy to use, but it's also the perfect place to be if you want to measure a throw.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's amazing. It's an amazing piece of technology. I can remember the first radar ball. I remember one of my neighbors had with the little screen in it. You
Oh
would
yeah,
throw
yeah,
it,
yeah,
and then it would show
yeah,
you the right. And so that was such a cool little thing. And
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and so one of my next questions that I have is from a buddy of mine. We were talking about. Let me pull up his message right here. One second. Okay. So his question is, how does this ball record the speeds of the data faster than any other device on the market?
Well, it was really important to us to be fast. We think that the way you learn is you throw, and while you can still feel what that throw is like, you know what happened. So you can start associating. Well, what does 2,200 RPM feel like when I throw a fastball at that spin rate, or what does a curveball feel like when I finally get it right? So having that pop up immediately, and so you can associate the muscle memory. Excuse me, associate the feeling so you can develop muscle memory is what we were really going for. So the speed was the earliest parameter of making it the product we were going after. So having said that, that's why it took so long. We had to wait for that 64 million flop processor, and we had to wait for the algorithms that could crunch that data as quickly as we needed. So really, uh, knowing how to do the problem wasn't the problem. It was waiting for all the hardware to catch up so we could do it instantly, like you see there. So uh, the product waited until we could do it fast, the way you see it now.
Wow. So you knew what the number was, like as far as what processing speed you needed to get to in order for it to be correct?
Well, having failed at developing this product multiple times, I can tell you a lot of wrong ways to go about it. So we were pleasantly pleased when we finally found out, hey, this combination works, right? But we tried doing it on some older hardware at least 3 times. Let's cram it in there, make it work this time. And it's just always too slow. You could get the data, but it was
Yeah.
always too slow. But the speed is what makes the product so fun to interact with. Uh, Steven and I, when we're working together on it, sometimes we'll just play catch just to see the numbers pop up because of all the people that should not care. I still think it's just awesome when the numbers pop up like that. Um, I would never say I was surprised because that wouldn't connote big confidence in the product, but it's very cool when it happens. And it's because it pops up immediately. And that's the first reaction when we show it to people is, wow, it's so fast. And we're like, awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is. It's kind of cool. Okay, next question. Why is this ball consistently faster than most of the devices on the market?
Great question. Really great question. And it goes to the precision that we're trying to reach with this product. So as I said, we're measuring everything 1,000 times a second, glove to glove. So when you take it out of your glove, we start measuring your take back, your stretch, whatever you do, then your take back. And then as you come over the top in your delivery, we're measuring 1,000 times a second we're measuring about at a raw level, at least 15,000 pieces of data per second. So we know exactly when that ball leaves your fingertip. So as soon as it's a millisecond off of your fingertip, we take a snapshot of everything that's going on. and we use that point for your speed. So we're always measuring your speed at exactly the same point. And radar guns attempt to do that. We have the newest Stalker with the Pro S. It's a great product, and it does a good job of it, but not perfect, because when your hand is moving at the same speed as the ball, it has to figure out which is the ball and which is your hand, and so it has to sort through that mess. Whereas we know exactly what part is the ball, and we know exactly when your finger is no longer touching it. We feel the release of it from your finger. So we always measure at the same point, whereas other devices measure it at different points downrange and then try to back it up to the point of release as accurately as they can. Like I say, some products do a really good job of it. There's an interesting effect, though, that we saw with the Stalker S, is that when you measure a fastball with the radar gun, it's slightly faster. We're slightly faster due to the effect we're talking about. If you put it in peak mode, which measures the fastest speed it sees no matter what, and you throw a curveball, it always measures a little bit higher than us. The reason is because right before you release a curveball, your hand gets right in front of it and it kind of rolls off your fingertip. It's actually going a little bit faster right before it comes off your hand. And then right after it leaves your hand, it slows down like a half a mile an hour. And the gun is measuring it while it's still in your hand, because that's the peak speed. We're measuring it right as it leaves your hand, and it's slowed down just slightly. So it's kind of neat because it validates what we understand about throwing a curveball. I think it also gives some props to Stalker for catching that peak speed so well. But in the end, at the end, you need to know what it is at a very consistent point in your throw, and that's what we're trying to do as good of a job as we can.
Those are great examples. Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like if you spin the ball, that makes a lot of sense, because if you spin the ball, even just thinking about visibility of the radar gun, right? If the hand goes in
Yeah,
front, there's a delay also to it also. But
that's right.
the fact that
That's right.
the fact that you pick it up at whatever the fastest speed it sees is interesting. Those are great answers right there. How many versions of this baseball? What version is this? Like how many? You said that there's 3 attempts so far. So like
Let
this
me
is because
let me show you the
I'm a
first
nerd that
one.
follows the
So
stuff.
this is the first one. Okay, drilled a big hole in it, jammed the electronics in it. Sorry, and then we held it in with a piece of tape. So this is tape ball. This is part of our history, right? And so this is version 0, to answer your question. But the hardware that we have right now is the final hardware. We have no plans to change the hardware in that ball, and that's really, really important, because we've got some really exciting upgrades coming out to enhance the capabilities and expand the capabilities. And it's going to work with the same exact ball that you have now. So this is the same hardware that we released a year ago, and it's been performing great for us. And we think that it's going to support all the functions that we have coming up over the next couple of years. So we think that in effect, it's version 1.0, but it's in reality, we've been through a lot of iterations to get to that point. But what's important here is that we're not going to release something really cool and then make you go buy another ball to take advantage of it.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
The consumers care about what the process is. That's one of the things, like owning your own data, and the being able to access it on multiple devices. Or I had an instance where my iPad, and when my iPad broke, I had a backup one. So when I count, all my stuff was right there.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it just really what was a great example of like why that's important. If you're still able to, I lost no basically.
Right.
iPad broke. Okay, today, because I had the device that was functioning, I couldn't imagine. Think about it, like getting the data off the iPad that's broken.
Right.
Trying to
Yeah.
figure that thing
Sure.
out. That's a whole. There's a whole other. I'm accident prone. Seriously. So
Well, there's another thing
it's a
about
great
that
function.
is if you, first of all, that's important because I'm accident prone too. And these devices, we got them out there and we're throwing baseballs around and people are walking around stepping on stuff. We get it up to the cloud as fast as possible. that also lets you, if somebody else wants to watch the session, they can log into your account. You have to give them your password, but you can log into your account, and then they can watch that session happening just like they're there. So we had one guy buy a baseball for his kid because he wanted to watch him do his bullpens while he's away at college. So when his kid's getting ready to do a bullpen, he just logs in and he can watch every pitch come by, and it shows up in the app just like it would if you were standing right next to the kid.
That's a really important feature, especially being a remote training business right now with stuff. That means
Right.
that this
Sure.
ball, I can actually look at the data instead of asking somebody for theirs. So I can actually be like, oh wow, yeah, that's
Yeah.
huge as far as like, especially in what's going to happen, over the next 3 or 4 months, where there's going to be even more limits to how you're able to, be outside and be around people
Mm,
and stuff. So
yeah.
your ability to train by yourself but also be guided by your coach, like, man, I'm going to tell everybody that right now because
Yeah.
that's huge. I honestly wasn't sure if that was a possibility. It's actually on my question list right there because
Okay. Yeah.
I'm
Great.
I'm a little bit of a hacker, too. I've got the YouTube TV with the family, and
Yeah. Yeah.
my dad, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my
Yeah.
brother-in-law. We've all got the passwords and stuff from there. So
Yeah. Awesome.
that's big for the consumer. It sounds like that you are really looking out for the athlete and the people who are actually using this, trying to make sure that they understand, that you're looking out for them. You're not trying to get them to buy another ball later, or you're trying to make sure that, hey,
Right.
this is a relationship with this company that you can trust.
Well, I mean, we do feel that way. I know a lot of people say it, but we're really trying to think about what people need. That's why you make money, right? You figure out what people really really need and what they hate, and you try to work towards that, and then you have a relationship where everybody benefits. And
Totally.
that's the way we try to operate. I'm sure we fall short daily, but that's what we're always looking towards, right? Because
Yeah.
and honestly, I'm I really love being part of the baseball community, and the people I've met are all like that. They engender that sort of relationship. So it's just a great way to run a company.
Yeah, it's like I said, I feel it, and I don't put my stamp on a lot of products and things because I need to be proven. I need to see stuff. I'm
Sure.
very adamant
Yeah.
about process and accuracy and stuff from there. And so you
Yeah.
being an engineer, the conversations that we've had about this and how you're willing to go on camera and just let everybody know what it comes. There's no speculation to this. This is important to the baseball world too. This is very nice of you for you to come out and say this to everybody. You don't see this
Oh
with a lot
gosh.
of
Yeah.
companies. So
We enjoy it. We love it.
um, another question. There's an idea, and if you don't, let's say you can't answer this question, no big
Okay.
deal, or you don't want to, no big deal. Okay. Um, if there's an idea of backwards/forwards extension, is that viable to consider when calculating velocity?
So okay, it's a good question. The velocity is not part of your forward motion, right? Well, let me say, obviously, if we move forward faster, you're going to get a higher velocity, right? But it doesn't change the accuracy of the velocity. If I understand your question, so like, um, if if you get into your forward motion very quickly, you're gonna start moving faster than your backward extension motion is. So you can actually get your backward extension to shrink down to zero, and that's all properly because you do your set right here at that
Mhm.
0 point. But you might move past that 0 point before you're actually done with your backwards motion. Probably easier to demonstrate. But so your backward extension can go to zero if you're moving quickly. If you're doing a flat-footed throw, like I always do, you're just going to stand there and you're going to reach back, 2 feet, and you're going to fling forward, and you're going to get 3 feet. And but your velocity is all relative to the earth frame, not relative to how fast your body is moving. So I'm not sure if I explained that, but uh,
No, you did. That's a good
okay,
question.
okay,
That's because that is, um, for example, with our philosophy of throwing stuff is we don't want a lot of backward extension. We actually, for the
okay,
position that we want to go forward, right? So that's something that we use. Like, oh, if it actually shows backward extensions, that means your weight shift and your leg kick, you went back too far, right?
right,
So
exactly,
to
yeah,
stay neutral on that spot. So it kind of helps teach them like, oh, I can't feel that. I got to go the correct direction,
Yeah.
when they're moving. So it's an interesting metric that I haven't. This is my first time like coaching and looking at it and trying
Sure.
to
Yeah.
find correlations to what things are. And we see it with guys on the mound where we can start seeing a range of extension, a
Right.
forward extension, to where when you are 5'2" extension, you're 88, and when you're 6'8" extension, you're 94. So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, well, all right, this is an area from that. So could you
Well,
talk about?
mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
no, I was just going to say when you do your set, that everything is relative to that point. So, if your body's, it's not relative to your body motion, right? It's relative to where it is in space. So, when you do your set, you set that point, and then as you start moving forward, wherever, how far the ball moves behind that point, and how forward it moves forward of that point. So, if you got long legs and a really deep stride, you're going to stretch it out to 6.5 feet, say, but if you don't take a deep stride, it's only going to go out to say 4 or 5 feet. The back extension has this odd thing that it's actually as much about your timing as it is about how far you reached. Because as you're moving forward and you're reaching backwards, if you move forward faster than you reach backwards, if you get into your stride really quickly, then that number gets shorter and shorter and eventually down to zero. So I think from a coaching perspective, it helps you understand: are you lunging? Are you being lazy? Is your hand staying behind your body? There's a lot of things that you can use that back extension number for. And it's just like exactly what you said. You just study it. You just watch people throw and you start to go, hey, a good throw, this is the back extension for this guy.
Okay, that's great. Um, Let me see. Oh, I had a good one. Um, can you? Okay, ready? Can you speak about the accuracy readings as far as how you guys collect your data, and then how accurate you have your findings?
Yeah, I love to talk about accuracy. And I'll even tell you some dirt about accuracy if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
Um, the 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 ball is designed to be two things at once. Starting back to philosophy, the ball is designed to be a baseball first. So when it's in your hand, all I want you thinking about is, I've got a baseball. I'm going to pitch it. And I'm going to strike this guy out. That's the starting point. Inside the ball is this we consider to be a very sophisticated piece of lab equipment. So we've got this dual kind of opposite identity going on, that has actually worked because I think people understand both aspects of it. So what I'm trying to get at is, you brought the little speedball with the display in the middle of it. Okay, we were so afraid of people thinking it was just some sophisticated version of that, which of course we're not. It actually replaces thousands of dollars of equipment. And when you see our new capabilities that we'll talk about, you and I someday, you'll see that it does so much more than what you can see now. But um, uh, part of being a lab instrument is you've got to be accurate. You've got to strive for maximum accuracy. And so that, we talked about speed of responsiveness being one of our major goals. Well, accuracy is another one of our goals, because if it's not accurate, it's just a toy. It's a piece of junk. Um, so we are always working to improve on that. The spin rates, if you think about it, we're inside of the ball. If we can't get spin rate when you're inside the ball, then you're not going to. You got to nail that, and of course, it's easy to nail that. So there's other products out there do a very good job of measuring spin. Ours is arguably the most accurate because we're spinning and we see ourselves spinning. We just got to count them going by. What also is important about that is Stalker and Rapsodo and TrackMan did a fantastic job of measuring spin in a much more difficult way. It's hard to do with a camera or a radar, and they did a great job because our numbers, which we consider gold standard, and their numbers are always very, very close together. That means is if you go work out on a rest with your coach, then you go home and throw our ball, or you go to a different coach with our ball, you can compare those numbers back and forth. Okay, TrackMan's going to give you a good number, Rapso's going to give you a number, and we're going to give you a number. that we also think is better. But you know, so the good news is we're very accurate, and the really good news is for spin, everybody else is really accurate too. That's awesome. And the spin axis is so important because that's what defines a pitch. If you understand your spin axis, then you know what you throw. You throw a fastball, you're right aligned with your arm slot. You throw a curveball, you're opposite your arm slot, on and on and on. So having a really accurate spin axis, break direction, trying to think of the other names for it, is another thing that has to be very accurate. And again, that's something that we're very, very good at. And I think, more than competitive, industry leading. With our velocity, I think that we do a very good job almost all of the time, but we know that there's a couple of deficits every now and then that we're actively working on. So I think that we're on par with everybody else in terms of speed, but we can't brag about it yet. And that's something that we're going to be improving on in the next few weeks. We'll send out some firmware that we think will improve on that as well. So we want to be the industry leader in every area, and we're there for most of it. And where we're not, we're going to work to get there as quick as we can, but not to throw shade at the other folks because they've done a great job too.
Yeah, it's interesting. You made the point about like you're literally counting the revolutions, and that makes a lot of sense.
Sure. Yeah.
Sensors
it's
and computers,
easy.
like you said. Yeah, exactly. That's not and you talked about the gyro or the compass, so that makes sense why it knows which directions it's going, where the G
Right.
forces are, and the things from there. So it's
exactly.
I'm not full nerd. I've got a best friend that's full astrophysics nerd, and so he's.
Well, I'll
I'm
be
going
your
to show
friend.
this to him.
That way you can
He's
have
going
a
to
full
say some
nerd,
things to
as a
that
friend.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Appreciate it, Dave.
You bet.
Could you, what do you feel like is your most favorite metric with the ball?
Well, I think it's a great question. I really do like spin axis and arm slot um, together as a pair. I mean, velocity is, we've been seeing that for lots of years, and I mean, it's important, but it's common. We understand that. And, even forward and backward extension has a lot of interesting things, but the spin axis is so much about what the pitch is going to be. It tells you so much about it. If you're throwing it right, do I have too much rifle spin? Is my spin efficiency where it needs to be? Am I dropping my arm for this pitch and raising it for another pitch? Those two metrics together are the ones that are the newest for everybody. 5 years ago, we didn't even talk about these things. Now we have the ability to talk about them every day, but also they're the ones that control the outcome of the pitch so much. If you don't get those right, it doesn't matter how fast you're throwing it. It doesn't matter if you're controlling your extensions. You got to get those two things right. So I love those. They're intricate. They're interesting, but they are also very key to throwing good pitches.
But why don't you tell me, like, you've been having a lot of conversations with other baseball people in the industry. Could you maybe touch on a little bit about what you guys have been talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, we try to keep everybody's business to themselves. We don't really talk about who we talk too much, but in general, we've had the absolute pleasure of getting reception from a lot of really great parts of baseball. The pros have been fantastic with us, very opening. Once they test the heck out of you, then they're glad to have you on board, and that was a fun process. And a lot of coaches, just guys working in high school or travel teams and things like that, spend a lot of time talking to those. And kind of the guy that's made all of that work great is Larry Sorensen. He joined us about 2 years ago, and major league pitcher, 11 seasons, All-Star, 1978. And so he's a great baseball player, awesome to travel with. He's got a million stories that'll crack you up. But he also is a great communicator. He's a broadcaster. He does baseball and football for Wake Forest University. And he just is a great communicator, and he fills a huge gap for us. So he and I go and talk to teams a lot together, and I bring the nerdy science stuff on board, and he brings the Mr. Baseball stuff on board. And and he's a lot of fun. I hope you can get him on the air sometime because
Yeah, we'd love to have him for sure.
great perspective.
I'll reach out. I've had some good conversations with Larry also. So yeah, I got to
Yeah.
get him on here.
Well, and the thing that really was so exciting about having Larry come on board is that he's all the things that Mr. Baseball needs to be, but he gets the progressive aspect of what this thing. He's a very forward looking guy. He understands how this kind of data can just make a huge difference, regardless of where you get the data from. Hopefully from us, but use the data, use the technology because it changes the way you learn. And he got that from the very, very start.
Yeah, I agree. He was explaining a process with me. He was using it with the trainer, and the guy was asking how the youth can use the ball. Is that something you can touch on? Is there a
And,
recommendation with the youth on where do you think that they can, why do they need this baseball? How can it help let's say a 6 to 10 year old?
well, first of all, I've had after seeing 8-year-olds throw much faster than I can, humiliating. Okay, but uh, the ability to use the data coming out of the ball seems to grow as you get younger and younger. It's really exciting to watch. We've had 8 and 10-year-olds come in here and teach themselves how to do all kinds of stuff just by using the ball and just studying the numbers. They just pick it up fast. But we think that a lot of these tools have been, like Repsodo and TrackMan and Stalker, have really been siloed into kind of an assessment role. Oh, coach has that tool. When I go in and take a lesson, he uses that to figure out where I'm at and things like that. And a lot of that's because they're not affordable or they're difficult to use or whatever. One of our goals with this product was to take technology, make it part of your practice. So if you're with a buddy in your backyard and you're throwing pitches, you still get that high quality data, but you're getting it as soon as the ball hits the mitt. You're seeing the data, and that gives you the ability to teach yourself or reinforce things. One of the worst things you can do, in my opinion, is practice without any understanding if you're getting it right or not. You know, go throw 50 pitches. Did I do them right? I don't know. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I just taught myself a new wrong way to do it. But when the technology is there, it's always helping you understand if you're doing it right or not doing it, or what you might do it a little bit better. So we think that for the youth, that's the hugest use of the ball is to take it out in the yard and throw it with your mom and dad or your best friend or whatever, and get it right from the very beginning. And then as you develop and you start working on new pitches, it can help you with that. And then all the way up into the pros, we've got a bunch of balls that the pros use, and they're using it to troubleshoot a problem, or if they come back from a surgery or something, they can immediately see what they need to start building back up and things like that. So, but the kids use it for practice every day.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine if I was a young kid and I knew what the ball data was from like 8. And I
Right.
was like, oh, okay, here's my curveball data. Here's my changeup
Yeah.
data. Here's my two
Yeah.
seam data. Like if I just knew what it was and I was tracking it as I went, it would just be, be very entertaining. So, and I'm obsessed with numbers and progress and development anyway.
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
would do nothing but just add to my addiction. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
okay.
and it won't help the kid. It won't help the dad who says, "I don't know what that number means," and the kid tells him all about it. Right? That
Exactly.
relationship's broken forever.
Totally, for sure, for sure. All right, Dave. Well, I don't want to eat up too much more of your time. We'll do
Great.
this again. Like this was awesome, and maybe we can get Larry and some other people on here. But I really appreciate you taking some time and just answering some questions. This
Okay.
is going to help a lot of the baseball community with just getting some great, real from the source information. So thanks again.
Well, I'm excited, and I really appreciate everybody, you know, helping us out and using the product, and anything we can do to help you guys, especially now. Please let us know, and we'll help you out any way we can. And if you got any questions, just get a hold of us, get a hold of me, whatever it takes. We want to help.
Sounds good. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find this ball, website, social media, anything from there?
Sure. Yeah. Go to pitchlogic.com on the web, and you can find it there. And then PitchLogic on Twitter, on Facebook. Let me try it again. On Instagram, and then PitchLogic S, we don't know why, on Twitter. So, there you go.
Okay. Got it. Okay, so pitchlogic.com. We got PitchLogic on Instagram, PitchLogic S on Twitter, and then PitchLogic on Facebook. So,
That's right.
guys, check them out on there. Don't forget, you get a $25 rebate with code Cutternation. So, appreciate to David for that, to the community there. You guys definitely learn what this ball can do. The battery in it is unreal too. 15-minute charge. You can use it for your throwing session. So, even if you show up and it's not charged, you can still warm up for 15 minutes
Get a
for
quick
all this. So
fix.
this is an impressive piece of technology, and I appreciate it very much.
All right. Thanks so much, John. Stay safe.